So normally our minds are conditioned to go outward. There's this natural reflex to identify with a story, and it's my story. We fall unconscious and we start to dream during the day. When we, for example, we sit down and our mind comes with a problem. Sometimes it's just reminding us of something that is making us cringe that we have done years ago, because it loves to seek out problems. So when you start to rest, the mind needs to find some negativity that makes you feel some kind of way because it's scared of silence. So it is distracting you away from within, and it wants you to be aware of something outside of you. And if there's nothing, it makes you aware of some problem that is going on in your mentality, and then it starts to think that it has a mental illness. And it wants to cure itself, which is only perpetuating the problem. And it's that there's this big search for liberation, this big search for the big relief. But actually it hates the relief. The biggest relief will be death, and it's what it hates the most. It's afraid of death. So when you can be aware during your day, especially when you're resting, that your mind is trying to have your attention, it wants to tell you some kind of story that makes you angry or sad, or oh, maybe she doesn't love me, maybe he doesn't love me, maybe what did he actually mean when he said it like this? Like the mind sees him as an enemy now, because he wasn't acting too friendly. So it's constantly this division. It's constantly trying to make you doubt, to make you feel like the world isn't a safe place. You cannot fight with the mind, because it's like it's only the mind that is fighting with itself, and actually it loves to fight with itself, because that means that it gets stronger. The ego gets stronger. For example, when you feel triggered, the mind does not ask itself, why am I triggered? It is intuitively assuming that it has every right to feel triggered. Then it is validating itself by telling stories why it's actually normal to be triggered, and how the other person is actually a bad person. And then it seeks validation from other people who are validating your feelings about how miserable that was, or how unjust this, but actually it is just making the ego bigger, and the ego is one. This sense of being a separate self is one with the negative feeling. It is its negativity, and validation of the negativity is the food of the ego. So when you don't pay attention to the negativity, to the negative thoughts, and to the negative feelings, but you simply fall back onto yourself, the one that claims to be the sufferer, then that's pure silence, and the mind hates it, so it's trying to fight. Right? So you're falling back, you're asking, you can ask the simple question which you already know: who am I? For example. And when you're closing your eyes, you're asking yourself, who am I? And you're genuinely trying to find that I, so you're really trying to find the subject. You're not trying to live in this objective world where all your problems and mental activity and feelings are. You're really trying to find the subject. Experientially, you're trying to find the subject. Who am I? Or what is aware? Then there is this silence, and it's perceived as some kind of boredom. It's perceived as unpleasant, as a waste of time by the mind. The mind interprets this as a waste of time because it wants to solve the problem, right? And it does not have any time to remain in silence because it wants to solve the problem as fast as possible. So it wants to go back to this outside world where it believes it can find some kind of solution. But there is no solution needed because the problems is a mirage. So you have to see that this whole activity of the mind doesn't lead to any solution because there's no solution needed. You need to really see clearly that this movement, every single movement of your mind that is trying to find a solution for a mentally created problem, it is all unnecessary. It doesn't work. It is just trying to feed its own sense of being a separate self. So, but when you ask yourself this simple question, who am I, or what is aware, there's just this pure silence. Maybe in the beginning it's just for a brief second, or maybe for a few seconds. And then the mind is uncomfortable with it. It interprets the silence as boredom or a waste of time, and then it's trying to get your attention back. And it will probably happen. So the mind will come back and tell you, you know, but this is really a big problem. You gotta care about this. So you go back in your thinking about all these catastrophic ideas. And then you notice, oh, I'm back in personhood. So you're asking again, who's experiencing this? And there's again the silence, and the mind is freaking out about it because it thinks, you know, you gotta think about it. But you don't. So you remain in silence, and then all of a sudden something can happen that you're just feeling a relief and a realization that it's actually my life isn't that bad. You can feel like this. I don't know why I'm actually worrying about stuff. It's not. I'm just being here. You know, and then all this mental drama just collapses. When you're just staying in that silence, and then the mind will come back. Oh, are you sure that you really want to stay in silence? There's nothing in there, and you don't even react. You're just staying here, and then mind activity will become more silent, more silent, and more silent. And in the last step, you will feel like you will still feel like you are someone that is silent, someone that is watching, some ego that has succeeded in becoming silent, and now you're in this silent place and you're being there, being a watcher, being ready for when the next thought arises. Actually, this watcher, this separate watcher, is still a thought. And it is a watcher that is still relying on the question how. How can I get rid of myself? Now, when it realizes that there is no how, there is no method, there is no, you cannot do anything, then it can simply collapse, and the feeling of being someone in the body also drops away, and there is just this consciousness without location. I hope I made this clear enough. So, and when you have awakened, when you feel like, I got it now, I really know what it feels like, what it's like when there's no subject anymore, it can still happen that the mind comes back. Makes you feel like you are someone. You are someone that is looking at thoughts and has a miserable life. Or you have a lot of problems and you still are in this situation, that situation. But actually, when that happens, that isn't too bad. You can do the same thing. It will be easier this time. Just go back into the silence. Thoughts will drop. It will feel so good to think about problems, actually. It's like an addiction. It's like, do I really want to be in silence, or do I want to think about this problem? Because it's actually a little bit, entertaining to think about problems sometimes. But when you want to love the silence, then you simply choose the silence and you go into it. And then the ego will fight again and again and again and again. But you will understand more and more, and it will be clearer and clearer to you that you are the silence. So you cannot easily fall into the trap of believing that you are someone, you're not a thought. So the ego can come back, but it doesn't feel like you anymore. So it's impossible for it to trick you, really. There can be an arising of stress again, but it doesn't feel like something that is your problem that you need to solve. It is just, it arises and it goes away, and in the end you will realize that there is no I in the first place that can do anything about it. You know. So if there's a question in your mind, how can I do this, how can I do that? That's like that, every question comes from the ego. Just, it does not need to be answered. Questioning things and getting answers is entertaining. It's not a bad thing. But for now, simply rest in that silence and see that there is no home to be found in this phenomenal world. There is only home within. And I don't mean within the body. I mean in the absence of identification. That's where home is. So there's no question left. There's no mind activity left. There's no personhood left. There's not even this. There's just void. Alright? So that was it. So, alright, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment and subscribe, and have a great day.